Timothy Wenger here from The Man Effect. Excited to bring you guys today a friend of mine. I guess we kind of met. You know, he's cool.
Yeah, sure. We're friendly.
Dan,
Yeah.
Dan Doty from. I'm gonna actually just show you.
Doty.
Doty.
Doty. Yeah.
God damn it! I fucked it up already. All right, let's show it here. And this is your guys' website, which is sexy. Anyway.
Well, it's our website that's about to change. We're building a new website, but yes, that is it. That is our website.
Is I'm impressed. We got lots of nice pictures. Go check them out, guys. So Dan, where do we even start? I'm like, I have probably a list of 10,000 questions. No, not quite. Why don't you? Let's start out with how did you start Everyman Group?
How did I start Everyman? The whole thing?
Yeah. Like, what's the origin of all that?
Yeah, great. So it's very much tied to my biography. So let me try to do a 60-second quick bio here because it's
Perfect.
Important. So I was born a really sensitive kid in the fact that I could feel a lot of things and I was born in North Dakota to a very loving family, but into both a family and a culture where there was really no emotional expression, or there just wasn't much. It was just a whole lot of being okay and stiffness, and you know, it's the opposite of what you would imagine. Yeah, sure, it's the opposite of what you would imagine, like an Italian family on Long Island. The opposite. And you know, I grew up and I was in martial arts as a kid, and I played football, and I was like in a band. I had a great childhood, but there was this huge part of me that just wasn't engaged, and that was my sort of deeper self. And after college, I became a wilderness therapy guide, and I started leading groups of young men who were struggling in different ways on wilderness trips through the desert and over lakes. We would do these deep winter trips. We do 21-day trips where we cross-country skied and slept on frozen lakes and pulled all of our stuff in sleds behind us. And it was such a hugely meaningful part of my life. I did it for several years, and it was a couple things. I started to find out who I was. Mm-hmm. I found myself with a passion to mentor and just be with other guys. And I started to grow up myself doing all of this personal work. And it was all of these environments some were therapeutic technically, but they were all on personal development. And it was like every night we'd sit around a fire and we'd have a topic, and we'd learn how to express ourselves. We'd learn how to communicate. We'd dig into stuff that was bothering us. And so I grew up a lot through that too, you know. And then after my time, and I spent 4 years, around 700, 800 days out in the woods doing that. And I moved to New York City, became a high school teacher in the Bronx.
That is such a change. I'm sorry.
It is and it isn't. I like extremes, right? I like the ends of the spectrum. I really do. And I was actually going to join the Peace Corps at that time, but New York City seemed like a scarier place to me than abroad. Because I had lived abroad a bunch and all of that already. Anyway, I became a teacher, lived in New York City, and promptly blew my life up. I had a quarter life crisis and cheated on my girlfriend, and just like everything that I thought I knew about myself blew up. And I found myself in my first men's group in New York City. I got invited. I didn't know what it was. I didn't know what a men's group was. I had literally no clue what this was all about. But I showed up, and when I sat in my first men's group, it was like a lightning bolt. Like I was back around that fire, but this time I was one of the kids, right? This time I was there for me. And I was like, holy shit. So up to that point, I had literally never done any deep personal introspective work. It's not true. I did on my own casually, right? But I never consciously went somewhere to find out what the hell's going on inside of me. You know, I had been able to basically just float along to that point and be okay. Anyway, changed my life in every way. I walked in this room and there was like 9 guys, and all of a sudden I had 9 friends and mentors who cared about me, who were already who were older than me. They were like crazy successful. I feel like I walked in that room and all like immediately saw what a life would look like for me, what was much more leveled up from where I was. It was huge. It was massive. And I just stuck with it. Yeah, I just stuck with it. And then I moved around and I moved to Montana and I met Owen Marcus, who's one of my best friends and my mentor, and he's a partner with me at Every Man. And I started to learn about myself more and more and more. I just went on this, now it's been a 10-year deep dive into myself, as deep as I can go, as deep as I can go. And
I love that.
Yeah. And the support of other men doing the same is just been it's what I've needed. And it's what a lot of other men need. And I've seen that. And, I'd go to all these men's groups and, other events and things and just be like, holy crap. Like what men are getting here is so overwhelmingly positive. It was like immediately my feelings were like, why isn't this a part of our world? Why isn't this a part? And actually the same exact feeling I had in the woods doing these wilderness trips, it was so overwhelmingly positive. I always felt like, why do we got to wait until we're fucked up to be sent away to do this? Like, dude, this works. We're learning. We're getting better. We're connected. It was so those two things, right? The time in the woods and then the time with men in these ways. And so that's where Every Man came from. Right. I mean, there's a lot more to the story in between, a lot more, but those are the big things.
And so you're trying to bring the very thing that you're like, why is this only when you're fucked up do you find out about this, to the general man? Is that kind of the goal?
Absolutely, man.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yes. And, everybody's at whatever level of fucked up, right? No matter what. True. I mean, like, but absolutely. I feel like it's there's a lot behind this, but it's a hard sell to proactively, to sell things, to create a marketplace to sell things proactively, right? I mean, our entire medical system is generally based upon, emergency response or reactive response to issues that are happening. Yeah. But it's changing. It is changing, like
preventative
nutrition. Yeah, exactly. I feel like the medical world has decentralized to such a huge way that so many more people have information and knowledge. So many people are proactively. I mean, look, my parents are 60 something in Minnesota and they're both on the keto diet and they've lost 35 pounds, my dad, so it's like, we're doing the same thing with mental health in like, we as humans have so much innate ability to help each other, to be there, to help each other be healthy and connected. And actually, I love therapists. I have a therapist right now. I think that's fucking great. And we're missing this, like what we can offer each other right here, you and me, like literally.
Yep.
So I get fired up about that.
No, I have this saying where I'm like, most men don't need a therapist. They just need a real friend. It's like a lot of the times, like you get to a point where you're so isolated and alone that you get to a place where you need a therapist. But preventative measure is actually having a good fucking friend who you can actually talk to about anything. And it's like, sure, some people have issues where you need professional help. I'm not belittling that at all, but a lot of things could be prevented if you just had a friend who actually you were close with.
Yeah. And imagine if you had, 8 of them. And then imagine if you had like 50 of them. You go on a weekend with us and you walk away literally with like the depth of connection with 2 dozen guys. It's like, geez, man, like, again, like, why try to do life without that? It's crazy to me.
Yeah. So for everyone who's tuning in and watching this, who has never heard about Every Man, could you just kind of give a quick overview of all the things you guys are doing?
Yeah. So I'll start from the broad and go to the more pointed. So we have a podcast called Every Man Podcast, which is a weekly show. Where I interview, you're going to be a guest on it. Well, you already were a guest, but hasn't been released yet. We have a network of supported men's groups, peer-led, community organized men's groups. So I have one here in Southern California where any man who wants can join one or start one. And so we have a curriculum and we have some mentoring and we can help men come together to do this. And you don't need to have any crazy skill set to do it. 2 things you need. You need to be able to organize a place and get guys to agree that you're going to get vulnerable together which is big deal. And then the second one is you have to be willing to lead by example and just share as much as you can. So that's that. So the groups are we see that as that's our practice, right? So that's our ongoing, like a meditation practice or a yoga practice or going to the gym or that's like and for me, it's powerful. So it's, 2 or 3 hours a week or every other week, but ideally every week. And the amount of growth and, maintenance and growth and all that is huge. So we got the groups.
That's awesome.
Then to support men and their groups and to sort of get people deeper into it, we do an event called the Open Source Retreat, which is for any man and every man. And it's a 2-day weekend retreat. So far, we've run them on the West Coast and East Coast. This next year, we're going to spread out. And I think we're going to do 7 open sources next year. We're going to include the Midwest in there too. And it is a wild, deep, exciting, fun, it's just an awesome event. I'm really proud of it. In some ways, it's our kind of our capstone it was our first thing. Actually, every man, my buddy Sasha and I did an event. We called it Open Source and it turned into Every Man, but we called it Open Source because, and I mean, this is one of the most important parts is that it's not like come to this weekend and sit at our feet and we're going to tell you like what.
Wait, you don't have everything together?
It's very much different. It's very much let's come together.
Yeah.
And we're going to facilitate, right? We're going to like set the stage.
Yeah.
But every man, like an open source technology or an open source anything, every man shows up, and as much as he's willing to participate and give and like be, and like it's literally this co-created thing that's it's wild. It gets wild. I mean, it's when that many guys show up and like just really show up, like peel back like the things of society and normality and just their true self emerges. It's just like, whoa. Anyway, it's a great time. So that's open source. We do a training called Masculine Emotional Leadership Training. It's for men to learn how to facilitate these events. And then we do private coaching. Myself and Owen do coaching one-on-one with men with the same protocols and practices. So
that's great. And and you do this full time pretty much, right? Entirely. Yeah.
I've been full time for about a year.
That's so interesting. And how many men have gone through the open source thing?
Probably between 400 and 500 so far.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
And you've done some in Montana, right? Because I've always wanted.
I forgot that we do wilderness expeditions. Yeah, thanks for saying that. So we do week-long. We do 7-day wilderness expeditions based in Yellowstone National Park. Actually, on Saturday, I'm flying to Montana to co-lead, and I'm actually only going to be on the first 2 days of this one, but we're doing our first veteran integration retreat, which is half special forces returned vets and half civilians on this 7-day adventure.
Interesting. That's a great idea.
Yeah. Really pumped about it.
When I get back on the States side, I'll have to hook up with you guys and go on a couple of your trips.
Yeah, you will. Or get enough dudes in freaking Transylvania and we'll come to you.
I wish I was in Transylvania. No, I'm just kidding.
Where are you, Romania?
I'm in Serbia right now. But
Serbia.
We'll see where I'll be in a couple months. Who knows? Dude, so in this process of creating a space for men to grow, and that's obviously cultivated yourself as a man to it. It's forced you to deal with things. What are some let's say the most unexpected results that you've seen so far?
I'll just go to the biggest one first. And I don't know if it's a result, but I'll say it anyway. I have now gone deep and seen and heard and felt and experienced, I don't know, hundreds, thousands of men at this point. Every single one who has been willing to share themselves in a very vulnerable way is so fucking amazing. And and interesting and intelligent and brilliant and powerful, and like we got these things buried in us, you know, probably everyone, right? I mean, this is just what I'm learning, but it's like, it's men are fucking amazing. They have so much to give. They have and they want to, and they're good. They're good dudes. Like they're really, really like good, loving, amazing, strong, brilliant, creative, like everything. And it's right there. It's in there. And so again, that's not a result. That's not like what happened to a guy, but that's one of the biggest takeaways I've had, which is just remarkable.
Sounds like an epiphany to you in some ways, like just really waking up to it. Yeah, that's a result. Absolutely.
It is. And it's also not the cultural story about men.
No, not at all right now.
No, not at all. No, not at all. I mean, you could come up with 100 different cultural stories from different points of view, but yeah, I mean, you know, some of the low hanging fruit is it's almost like we get to, because this is one of my own weird ticks or gifts, is that I can meet somebody and I just sort of naturally, I think I have this naive optimism, but it's more than that. I can see the good in people. And I feel like what we get to do at Every Man sometimes is like introduce a man to himself almost. It's like, hey, here's you. Why don't you jump into that and see how that feels? Right. And so the results are, I mean, one of the most dramatic and remarkable results, and this is very personal, is my own father. My own dad came to a retreat this spring, and
no way.
The leading up to it, so I have a 2-year-old son, and my dad is a very, very loving and involved grandpa, but I think some people could relate, but being around my dad up until this spring, I couldn't be around him without the hair on the back of my neck. Like, it was so fucking tense. It was so uncomfortable. Like, I loved him, he loved me, but there was just so much in between us that made things really, really, really not fun at all. And you know, he came on a retreat, and
awesome.
It was probably the most powerful single event in all of this men's stuff I've ever done. And the transformation it's bizarre how huge and complete it was. I actually search right now for any negative memories of my dad, and I can't find them. It's like our father-son system got rebooted with a brand new fucking operating system.
That's incredible.
And he, you know, and he's just like, it transformed his marriage to my mom. It's just like, you know, and I'd invited him for many years, and he was always very honest. He's like, I don't want to come. I'm scared, and I don't know if I can handle what's going to come out. And I usually you can't tell the story without tearing up, but I'm doing pretty good right now. I'm not tearing up, but so that's I mean, that's one, you know, that's kind of a really dramatic and personal example for me. But men, you know, it's just like, let me tell you what the basics of what we do are, because I think that'll explain it. So it's the most simple thing in the world. First of all, we say this: we're slowing down. Like, we're going to slow down. We're going to slow way down, right? And this mental pattern of thoughts that barrel forward like a light speed, like we're always in. We're just gonna slow down enough, and we're gonna, instead of only listening to our head, we're gonna listen to our physical bodies. What the hell do we feel? What emotions are present, which is really simple but hard for a lot of guys. Like, even just to know, oh, I'm sad right now. That's really tough.
Yeah.
And we're going to listen to each other. And so what we're literally doing is we're tapping into this social this social wiring, this neurological wiring we have as humans to be together in a tribe or a pack or whatever you want to say. And we slow down enough, and we just start to, you know, think and feel and talk on a level that is slow and deep and from our body and from our emotion. And we share that with each other. And that sharing with each other is an incredibly vulnerable act. It is. It's not what we're normal. It's not what we're used to doing. What it is saying, this is what's true for me. I'm willing to put it out there. And when everybody agrees to approach this from a slowed down way, it's like the response is exactly what everyone needs. It's like, man, I resonate with that. I'm not, I'm not up here speaking like fucking fuck you, judging that. Like, this is bullshit. Like, and if that happens, that's fine too. But it's just like, it's this coming together on a really simple human way that we often just don't take time to engage in. And so what happens there is like, there's two questions that we go back to over and over, and they're so simple. It's, what do I feel? And then what do I want? And if anyone can like stop, anytime you ask either of those, if you could stop and fucking have a clear answer to that and feel it all the way through, goddamn, like that changes your life, because all of a sudden, all these nagging things we have, like, I'm in the middle of losing some weight right now and it feels amazing. But for a long time, it was just like this thing. I like felt it, but I didn't want to feel it. Right. And I'm like, oh, I don't want to be ashamed of that. Oh, I don't want to actually feel what's going on there. I just want to like brush it off, push it away, whatever. And so we create a space to not do that.
Yeah. That's awesome. Yeah. And so for like people who, let's say the guy that's watching right now who doesn't have the, I don't know, who has the mental barriers right now to either get involved or go find a group locally to him that's might be similar. Yeah. What are some practical steps that he can take? Like asking himself those questions, like, what do you want? And what do you feel right now? What are some other steps that they can take just as practical tools in this moment?
Yeah, well, I think journaling is very powerful. And I would actually, maybe offer an idea to journal on those two questions and nothing else for a whole week.
Really? Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, why, just to explore yourself, because, and here's the reason why those are powerful. If you can't feel what you feel, then there's a whole, like, how everybody talks about that, verbal communication is only, a fraction of the message you're putting out in the world. I don't remember the numbers. It's 80% of communication is nonverbal. Mm-hmm. So we don't take that seriously, right? So if I feel shitty inside, but I cover it up with a smile, like, dude, everybody smells your fucking shit. It's like you got shit in your pants, and you're like, oh no, I don't have shit in my pants. I'm great. My shorts are fucking clean. I feel great, So anything where you can, and so I think the journaling is helpful, because anything that you can do to get congruent with what you feel and what you're fucking saying or putting out into the world, right?
Yeah.
So that's one thing. Journal about it. Find out what you feel. See if you can even get close to touching it. See if you see what you can do. And then also what you want. And other practical things would be any simple mindfulness or meditative practice that works for you. And specifically where you're not horsing or pushing or forcing your way through something. Yeah. So that is the normal male practice, is like push harder, run faster, lift heavier. And that's fine. But we need to like lift the muscles of letting go also, right? So it's some sort of, and this could even be getting a really good massage. Honestly, for a lot of guys, that could be the most powerful thing you could ever do. If you can go lay on a table and like just chill the fuck out and relax as deep as you, it's actually relaxation. That's actually that would be the other direction. And I'm not talking about, it's interesting. Like, a joint in Netflix might feel relaxing, and I guess, it is in some way, but there's a different, there's other types of relaxation that are, I think it's less about relaxing the mind and more about relaxing the body and the whole system, I guess. Yeah. Does that make sense?
Oh, absolutely. There's this whole, I don't remember the whole study I was reading, but essentially, like, if you have tension, or no, you can't be physically angry if you don't have tension in your body. Like, so like you physically hold anger And so if you're able to relax your body, it's impossible for you to be angry. And like, and so like,
Well, it
what other
is,
things?
but well, that's great. So, okay, beautiful. So what happens in these groups is that there is this type of safety, this human safety that only comes from knowing your place in a tribe. That is literally how we wired as social mammals. There is a part of us that cannot relax, that does not relax unless we know we are in safe, unless we know we belong, unless we know we really belong, right?
That's good.
So that's exactly what happens when we sit with other guys in this certain like context. Our wiring just goes, fuck, I'm
that's
safe.
Good.
And I let go.
Yeah,
right?
I can definitely attribute or agree with that. I've had those experiences myself too in groups where you just like, you belong, and it just lets down a certain guard that just doesn't happen in a bar usually. You know, I can be good, but it's totally different when you're in a certain.
So in terms of practical things, again, so I think the two key words there, the relax, but the relaxation is completely dependent on the level of safety. And safety is not something guys think is a sexy thing, but it's something we gotta fucking take serious. And it's not safety in like, oh, I'm a, you're a pussy, you gotta fucking like, live on the edge. It's a deeper, like, we gotta recognize that there's a lot more going on than what we're thinking about. Like that's one of the first things, right? Like we're subconsciously like taking in information on such a massive level, and that safety part as a human being, as a functioning human being, is so huge. Yeah.
You could, I think a better word to use that might get beyond those mental barriers is container, right? So like if you create a container for yourself to decompress, like a science lab, right? They go through their little thing to like get rid of all their shit, and then they go in and they do their work, right? So it's, in some ways, you're creating a space for yourself to go internally and deal with your shit.
Great.
Like it's a container, if that helps anyone watching.
Yeah, well, language is so interesting and fun around this stuff because it's interesting. You say container, and I get this little like, whoa, is that woo woo? Is that hippie language? Should we not say it that way? But safety, I mean, that's a big part of what this is. Yeah. As we share this with the world, we are literally learning and finding ways to talk about this that don't make men's assholes clench up and be like, ooh, like no way. We're literally, I mean, that's literally that's the first order of business, honestly, is saying, hey, it's okay. Like, first of all, I mean, there's a lot of stigmas, right? And I get them, and I still have them myself. There's men's organizations and things out there, and I see their stuff online. I'm like, oh, no,
oh, dude,
that doesn't feel good. Right?
Absolutely.
And I know a lot of men see every man have the same thing, and that's okay, right? And we are, I think, I don't know, approaching this from the way like this is a big challenge to like, men look at it and they're like, oh, I'm going to go talk about my emotions. That's touchy-feely and fluffy. There's no way I would ever do that. But the reality of what we do is so drastically different from it isn't. What happens and what men find is that this is, I'm going to make an analogy here, and it might be bullshit, but I don't think it is. It's almost like as intense as an extreme sport.
Okay.
It's so fucking terrifying to get real with yourself and to get real with yourself with other men. Literally, this is literally one of the cultural things that we are wired to not do in the most intense way. You're like seriously going to sit across from another fucking man that you don't know very well and like open up and share all of your, scary little parts that you don't want to share with anybody. It's like, but when you slow down enough and do that consciously, it is so fucking terrifying. And never once in all of this that I've ever done with men has somebody taken that risk and not been rewarded for it. Never once has it gone the wrong way where a guy's like, oh, you pussy. It just doesn't happen. And that's that's kind of the fun challenge here is how do we share this with the world? How do we share this with guys so that they can feel okay about it?
Yeah. How do you use language that doesn't push them away but draws them in? Yeah. Well, yeah. I have a feeling we could keep going and going, but I would really like to take five or 10 minutes here and just talk about ways that people can get plugged in with you and get in touch with you, if that's okay. So like,
oh, of course, man. Yeah.
I'm going to be posting a link to your website below this video, but also like, what are ways that people can get plugged in with your organization?
Yeah. So our website is everyman.co. That's EVRYMAN.co. That is the main hub. You could find pretty much everything there. There's links to coaching. There's links to groups. There's links to our upcoming retreats. Our podcast is on every normal outlet, iTunes, Stitcher, everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the easy way, I guess.
That's pretty much it. And if someone wants to reach out to you personally, there's like a contact something out there or whatever. Yeah.
There is, and I have a personal website. It's dan-doty.com. You could go through there too, but there's links at Everyman also. So
yeah, that's awesome. So last question I want to ask you before we wrap it up here was, if you could influence change of men for up, let's say 5 generations from now, what would you like to see change for men?
That men are born and die with no gaps in them feeling that it's okay to be themselves all the way through, and with every element of what that means.
Interesting.
So from the moment of birth into the moment of death, there are no or very few moments where we have to pull back from what we really feel, really want, and really are, because I think those are all actually the same thing. When we can live fully expressed, and we're not clenching and holding back all of these parts of ourselves, that's really living. That's living, and that's really living, and that's what I would like to see. And honestly, I would like. It's not just for men. You know, it's for everyone. And this is in no way, it's like, oh, I want this for men, but women, no. It's actually the opposite. This is what I know. And this is the gift I think we can bring. But the bigger picture is that when a man is able to be okay with his experience, he all of a sudden is naturally giving that gift to everyone around him, his kids, his wife, his partner, his coworkers, his friends, his parents. And it's like a drip. He becomes like a drip torch or a fire, you know, like he comes to the fire to light up and then goes to his everywhere else in his life. And it is safety. He spreads safety. He spreads existential safety that just simply says, without a word, I'm okay. And so are you.
So. Yeah, his presence creates that. That's good. Well, for everyone watching, thank you for tuning in. Please feel free to share and subscribe to these series of videos, and leave us some love. Comment what your favorite part was outside of my beard. No, I'm just kidding. And Dan, thank you so much for being on here. I really appreciate your time, and I look forward to seeing what you guys unfold with what you're doing. So.
You're welcome, man. Thank you. Appreciate it.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.